So Jennifer, you may know this, you may not, but I've got to tell you, you are probably, and your family, are probably my favorite people in the entire universe. Well, I've known you for a couple years now, and I think it was one night. I've got to tell you why that is before we get into some of the content we really want to talk about today. But the reason for that, I was at your house. I don't know, it was a couple years ago. It was before you started the business here. I think actually you were kind of in that ramp up phase of you had inventory all over your house. There was product everywhere. You were using your basement as kind of a staging or a holding area for everything that you had coming in. I remember it being a very hectic time. You were waiting on a build out, I think, for your location that you'd chosen. You seemed not super stressed. I'm sure there was a lot of stress that came with that, as every business owner experiences. You were very excited. So was Justin, your husband, who's helping you do this. And I just remember you had this like ferocious tenacity. And what was cool about that is I constantly saw you in action, chasing whatever this idea, dream, vision was in your head that you wanted to create. And I tell you something, like being here with you in this beautiful place, getting to feel, smell, touch your dream is like, it's amazing. So I just kudos to you for keeping it going, making it work out. And that's what I want to know from you today. And I think that you have some real value to share with people that may have dreams, visions, ideas, businesses they want to start. I just got to ask you a couple quick questions.
Okay, wonderful.
Is that all right?
Absolutely.
I guess number one, when you first had the idea to start up a business or to do this, like, what was your first step? Like, what kind of put this train into motion? What was your first step?
Well, it originally started with a need for traditional classic children's clothing. There's very little in the Atlanta area as a whole, and definitely, there's nothing in our community. So I was calling, boutique after boutique from a website for one of the brands we now carry, and just trying to find a dress for my daughter in a certain size. And when they didn't have it, I'd move on to the next store. And then it was frustrating, and my husband saw that, and we realized there was a need. We knew lots of people doing the same thing in our area. And he was like, why don't you just open your own store? And that's kind of where the idea was, birthed, I guess you could say. And we moved forward from there with incorporating the Crab and the Apple and, registering with the state and those kinds of things that you do in the very beginning of starting a business. And then I had to contact the major brands I knew I personally absolutely loved and had a passion for. I contacted them, and they put me in contact with the person that I needed to work with at America's Mart in downtown Atlanta to order the clothing for the next season. So, and then it was a matter of, in fact, you put us in contact with a commercial realtor. Yes. Yep. To help us find the perfect location for the Crab and the Apple. And we found it. It was under construction. So, there were delays and things like that, but we, worked through those and got through it, and here we are.
I've got you said something in the very beginning that your husband said, why don't you open this store? What I heard from that, and I know your husband, I love Justin, was that you kind of had somebody in your corner kind of pushing you along.
Yes, I could not have done that without him there. He was definitely the driving force behind it, giving me the confidence that I needed to move forward in something, it was all new to me. And I've learned a lot as I've, up to this point, I'm learning new stuff every day. Yeah. And I think that's probably the best way is you learn as you go. Yep. Really. Every situation's different. You never know what's going to happen or what things you're going to encounter. So along the way, and it's great to have someone like that behind you.
You also said something that you're kind of putting everything in action. You've got somebody behind you. It's a great support system. But you also had to wait for build outs and things that were out of your control. Was there anything that kept you motivated through some of those delays or those points where you couldn't just open the store and start, doing business?
Right.
Is there anything that kind of kept you motivated?
Honestly, yes. I think the customers at that point, because of the delays, some of our companies, most of our vendors do not allow us to sell online. So they saw that we had all this inventory and there were delays. We weren't going to be able to open as planned, or not even really close to when we were planning to open. And so they were allowing us to, you know, post like on Instagram or Facebook, you know, we have these items, call the store, and started listing us as a retailer on their website. So we were now one of the stores that people were calling. And I was actually able to send invoices and ship. So we have, the majority of our customers are out of state. We even have customers in Australia and Canada. I mean, all over the world, which is really cool. And that's, I think, helping those people who were in the exact same situation I was in is what really was motivating and keeping me going with the stress of it. I mean, with things, dealing with those delays and things like that that were out of my control, is knowing that the excitement was there. People were excited that we were finally going to have this in our community. That's
a purpose thing. That's a fulfillment, helping others.
Right.
So this was, I'm sure it felt like a lengthy process. If there's anything that you could go back and say, man, I wish I'd have known this, or if I was giving somebody advice about either starting up a business or a clothing boutique, what would that be?
I think especially with a clothing boutique, I think when you find your location, if there can be, to know that there can be delays with build outs, even if it's already a building that's already there, you do have to do a build out of some sort, unless it's perfect when you walk in just how you want it. And there can be delays with that, knowing that, and kind of just knowing that that's a possibility, and being able to kind of go with the flow of things. You kind of, I mean, it's out of your control, you kind of have to. And making the best of it. If it's a new construction with clothing, you really have to take into account the possibility of those lengthy delays, as well as when we order our clothing, we order it, you have to order a season so far in advance. It's almost a year in advance of that season.
Pre-orders.
Yes, since the fashion world is a season ahead, the stores have to buy it a year ahead, and then the designers are even designing it like 2 years ahead.
So just coordinating time frames around
it's a whole nother mindset to start thinking about.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's exciting, and we love it.
Every time I pass by, and sometimes I pass by at night, your lights are still on, you're still here working, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's living out her dream, her purpose, and I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Love you to death. Thank you so much for spending time with us. You're awesome.